All right, we're streaming.
Oh, okay.
So can someone just like go and check it out just for like audio reasons?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think it is.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, we chilling. Fuck it, we ball. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the first ever episode of... What's good, y'all? Welcome to the first ever episode of Political Pundits. I'm Jaggu.
I'm Bells.
Who's next? Panini is for you.
I'm Kyle, not Panini.
What am I Kyle now?
And I'm Beta.
Okay. And so today we're just going to be talking about mutual aid and Praxis. We wanted us to restart the podcast again after Papa G unfortunately left, just so we can, talk about more issues in the leftist community and I guess like the political community as a whole, right? Bring on guests and just talk about important issues and stuff that's coming up. Today we want to talk about mutual aid and Praxis, and so today we have the one, the only Kami Bader.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I guess Bader, just like tell us a little about yourself, dog.
So I've been involved in politics like ever since I was young. I only became a leftist like a year ago, and I've only started like, I guess you can consider me like reading theory like a month and a half. But I've always like put emphasis on the idea of mutual aid and Praxis being like a big proponent, because I feel like a lot of people tend to have like specifically on like political discourse, political TikTok, people have the knowledge, but I don't see many people actually taking that knowledge and applying it to the real world, which is really, really sad, specifically when, regardless of whether you're, I guess, right or left, there is still, like this gray area where we all want to actually help. Right. And I think if we can all take what we know and apply it to the real world, it could, maybe not a big change, but it bring a significant change to the community itself.
Mm-hmm. And that's the important thing too. Like, and I think that's what we want to like talk about most is just like what you can do specifically for your local community, for your local area, even if you are to just help one or two people, like that's still mutual aid and it's still important to the movement.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like I've got like a few projects coming up, one being like the political education project. It's not mine. It's a bunch of like my cousin and a bunch of other people who are going to be on it. Just teaching people about like, it's going to be leftist discourse. So it's going to be like anti-racism, socialism, feminism, all that type of stuff. And like, I feel like a lot of people tend to think that Praxis and mutual aid means, you have to do like, or you have to raise money, or you have to, go out. No, not necessarily. It's just teaching people about politics. I feel like is you could consider a form of Praxis as well. It is a form of Praxis, and like specifically mutual aid, because I feel like, again, not a lot of people have the material conditions to be able to, send money to charity. Like I see like, on political TikTok, a lot of us just, go on streams and we like, have these charity streams where people donate, we do dares, whatever. Even that in itself, like kind of brings a light to mutual aid and like this whole idea of, you can actually bring change, you can actually help people, even like through having fun as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I think that, like we were saying earlier too about the educational portion of it, I think that that's one part that people tend to forget, that is just as important as everything else. The more you educate people, the more they're aware of these issues, the more apt they're going to be to participate in other forms of mutual aid and have desires to participate in other efforts in their community, Yeah.
And it doesn't even like have to be in like leftist ideals, right? Maybe if you want to educate people politically, it just has to be like, on certain social issues in our government, maybe even like what you can do to like help people out, maybe like systemic racism, poverty in our communities, that type of stuff we can focus on more than, just solely trying to focus on like radicalizing people.
And I think in political spaces, we tend to forget that like, and not to even come off as arrogant or anything like that, but you'll be surprised to see how little people know compared to you a lot of the times when you're involved in political discourse and discussion in like an everyday situation like most of us are. You'd be surprised that when you do begin connecting with people outside of those spheres in different platforms, they know exponentially less than you would assume them to. And that's why I think that education is so important in that conversation of mutual aid, just because people are so unaware and so blissfully unaware.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
And I think one of the biggest things you debate, even like on like a social media platform, which I don't think many people should really consider Praxis as much because there's not much radicalization or anything happen. But like the way you reach out to like beyond just like leftist TikTok and you make the whole fucking, oh, you're so close. Like those type of vids, I think those do a ton too because you're reaching out to people that don't know about communism and you're fucking with the algorithm and trying to do that too. I think that's a big thing as well.
And it brings a sort of like humor to it too, where it's like, it doesn't like mutual aid doesn't have to be this like serious, like geared towards academic and those types of educational concepts, but just starting conversations and just kind of planting that seed in people's heads where it's like they begin to think about these progressive ideas and these ideas that we as leftists and progressives and whatever you want to call yourself, like ideas that we just want to try our hardest to spread,
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because the majority of people in America, in my opinion, especially those who are in lower and working class positions, especially in the economy, I believe are pretty close to what we advocate for. They might just have some, ideological preventative mechanisms like, the Red Scare that are preventing them from taking that step, or they might just not know about it. But I think, taking that first step and trying to reach out to those communities, spreading the message of leftism and progressivism is a great first step in trying to bring those people in so that we have more people to draw on in terms of doing actual advocacy for the country and for other people, That's my opinion, yeah.
On the topic of advocacy, we can turn it back to Bader and just you can tell us a little bit about the sort of organizations you've been involved with, the sort of practice you've done specifically.
So when I was a lot younger, I've been involved in like many charities. One being, it was like a storytelling charity where what we would do is and it was actually a bunch of my friends. We got involved through this storytelling project where we got to teach the story of Gilgamesh, a Mesopotamian hero, whatever. And what we did was we'd go to like different venues with different amounts of audiences, like going from like 10 children to like 150 like individuals in the theater. And what we do is we just go tell the story. And by doing so, all the ticket, I think it was like 50% of the ticket sales would go towards this charity, which would feed children in the Middle East, specifically those that didn't have like good education, good hospitals, stuff like that. Just by doing that, I was able to then open up my connections a lot more. So through that, I got involved with another political agency in my area. And what we're doing currently now is we're trying to build a farm in my community to help individuals of lower income, specifically now with the whole, kids in the UK having to pay it's like £5 a week for food, which is nowhere near enough for a child, let alone an entire family to be eating off of. So what we want to do is we want to do this in my area and then, create awareness so people do it in their areas as well. So then these children who have barely anything to eat have enough food for them to be able to get through school with their families with ease.
Which is a really interesting concept that you just brought up, just the fact that participating in Praxis is also a way to educate people and to help people understand the efforts that you're putting through.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something that I, again, with my storytelling agency, when we had a lot of kids asking us, oh, this is so cool. At the time I was still a liberal, I wasn't a leftist, but even then, the kids would be like, oh, we'd love to get involved, whatever. So what we did was we were paired up with the British Museum, the British History Museum in the UK. And what we were able to do is we were able to get into the ins and outs of Mesopotamia. We were able to get into this closed off area with a specialist who was able to read cuneiform, which was the language they would write in at the time. And just by doing those little things, even if you can't, I guess I had the privilege to be able to even be paired up with a charity like this. But even if you can get even a fraction as close as to what I was able to do, you can have so many children be interested and enjoy themselves just by doing these little things. Storytelling, as much as as a child, I loved it. I hate it now. But telling stories, regardless of your age, is always enjoyable when you have a good audience. And kids are the best audience to do so.
100%.
Wait, so you talked about kind of organizing this with your friends and whatnot. How do you get your friends to be more politically active with you?
Oh, okay. it's, you have to, this is kind of hard because a lot of my friends, they're not politically educated, and they definitely aren't, I guess, as politically involved as I am, yet they still do teach people, which is something that I advocate for, because again, like I said, now that I'm a leftist, I can definitely, like, you know, expand people, like take people, you know, people that are liberals, and like take their knowledge way further into leftism. They might not be able to do so, but they can definitely teach about electoral politics. My cousin, who's also a leftist, ever since I can remember, she's always been involved in music specifically. And what she'd do is she'd, like, you know, perform, whatever, build connections. And through those connections, she was able to get involved in this, like, the political education project, which now has Loki, who's a British rapper, who's like fairly well known amongst the Arab community.
I actually love their music.
Yeah, Loki's going to be on the anti-racism talk for the political education project as well.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, like, just through like, you know, being involved, like, for me, I love being involved in my community. So just by being able to, like, you know, walk around, talk to people, whatever, making even friendships, that's like the first thing I do, really. Just by doing so, even talking to people is a good way to, like, just get involved. Because once you know people, what you can do is you can take these people, be like, listen, I really need help, like how we see MJ do. MJ does it all the time with his charity streams. He always does it. He goes, guys, I need help. Can you guys join me? And of course we're going to join him because it's fun. It's the same thing. Like, it's if you get involved in
and of course you're going to join him because he has fostered such good relationships with you and with other people that you're willing to participate and you're willing to help. Once you've fostered that relationship with someone, we don't even have to go as far as to, like, how can you radicalize them? How can you, like, do those types of things? It's just easier to get them involved in your cause when you have a good relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's almost that idea of, like, not forcing someone into a hole, like forcing someone into, like, a particular type of leftism or a particular type of politics. It's more so letting the conditions around them kind of bring them to that place naturally. I think if you let people kind of engage with the community, inspire people to do things on the ground in terms of, like, actually, you know, doing things in the community, donating to charity, experiencing different things within the community, trying to actually on the ground help people. I feel like that more so is going to guide people towards a better type of leftism than just telling someone to, like, oh, go read, you know, Marx, go read these theorists, right? I feel like the natural progression there is probably going to lead them to a better state than just making them read theory, in my opinion.
So, like, you've done a lot. I know you've done, like, a lot of, like, political advocacy and stuff. Can you, like, elaborate on that more?
Me?
Yeah, like,
what do you mean?
So, like, I know you, before you used to tell me how you, like, met every single, like, prime minister in
UK.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay. I'll be honest. That was just through pure luck. Like, I would, so, like, after, you know, Grenfell, the tower was, you know, sadly, well, I guess burnt down. Let's not get into conspiracy theories. But after, like, what the tragic thing that happened to Grenfell, I think it was every Saturday or Sunday we'd go on walks, right? So the more walks you'd go on, you'd see, like, very, very prominent political figures in the UK get involved. Like, specifically Jeremy Corbyn. He was there very often. And what you'd see is, again, Jeremy Corbyn is a perfect example of this. Even though I myself might not be involved in electoral politics, someone like Jeremy Corbyn, who's able to foster such a nice community in just the area he lives in, like, so many people love him purely because he knows how to talk to people. He knows how to get involved. He knows how to, you know, entice people into politics. It's just, like, just by being around people like Jeremy Corbyn, it also kind of inspired me to get more involved. Like, Jeremy Corbyn was definitely the individual that pushed me to get involved in politics a lot more than, like, I would say when I was 8.
Would you support him today?
Okay, this is. I'll be honest with you. I think there's a difference between, you know, like, my ideology and like, pragmatically what I would do. 100% that man would have my vote. Even though I do not like getting, like, don't get me twisted, I wouldn't vote for Keir Starmer now, purely because mine and his political beliefs are just so far apart. Whereas Jeremy Corbyn, even though I might not agree with electoral politics in itself, the policies he pushes forward do and will help the working class, which is something, again, as a leftist, I always advocate for. So by me voting for him, I think that like it would give me the best opportunity to also be able to get involved in more politics.
It's like us voting for Democrats, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. To a lesser extent, though.
To a lesser extent,
yeah. Because Jeremy Ford, yeah.
It's like if Bernie Sanders was like
that's a more good comparison. I definitely agree with that. I think just going back to the kind of the electoral discussion, right? I think that like electoralism is like a big debate in leftism. Obviously, there's an argument to be had on whether electoralism should be a valid way that we achieve our goals. But I think it's important for us to recognize that like, even if we don't support electoralism as an end, we should maybe support it a little bit as a means. Because if there is like a candidate that's demonstrably going to help the working class in our country, and we know that there is something that needs to be done there, especially with like healthcare in the United States, right? I feel like instead of putting our theory over our practice, we kind of have to put our practice over our theory and just lay down the line and say, okay, I may disagree with electoral politics, but at this point in time, I feel like it's better for us if we just vote for healthcare rather than trying to do it all ourselves, because there is a kind of practical necessity that comes with having to advocate for certain things in the higher offices of government.
100%. Right? I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen with leftism as a whole is like we kind of shy away from like entering electoral politics. Rather, we criticize, but we don't actually understand the intricacies and the nuances of it more than we should, right? So like I feel like when people like when leftists do Praxis or mutual aid IRL, it's more like donating to charities, maybe debate a couple of people. But I feel like what we need to focus on more and doing, which is why we started the Progressive Powerhouse, is push more electoral politics and like talk to your representatives, talk to people, and push policies forward, which I don't think many people focus on a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
No, for sure. And I think that brings another like huge point up too about how we can sort of, in that sense, consider participating in general like electoral practices as a form of mutual aid or as some sort of push towards a better cause, because ultimately what mutual aid should be is to assist the working class and to assist those who are oppressed and all of those. So by participating in things like electoral practices, you are pushing a sort of mutual aid. I don't know if Bader, if you have anything to say on that, whether or not you would consider it mutual aid or Praxis.
Oh, 100%. Again, like I said, I guess it's the whole thing of like religious people saying, or like atheists saying religious people shouldn't push their beliefs on people that are atheists because, they don't believe in the same things. It's the same thing. Me as a leftist, I'm never going to force a liberal to just believe in what I say. I might make fun of them, whatever. Yeah, sure. But I'm never going to force them to believe in what I say. It's the same concept. It's like, if the only thing I can do is create better working conditions for the working class, then so be it. I'd rather do that than do nothing. And I feel like that's also, like Jaggu said, that's a very big issue with like the leftist community, is they'd rather push this notion that, oh yeah, you know what, electoral politics doesn't do anything, voting is inherently racist, that type of stuff. Even though, yes, it might be somewhat true, it doesn't harbor a safe environment for example, me as a leftist, it doesn't harbor a safe environment for people who are liberals to come over to me if we're just shitting on them completely. That's my, it's specifically like, I guess with conservatives and Republicans, if we want to pull them towards not even like leftism, into just like, voting into more, I guess you could consider left policies, you can't shit on them. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's fun. I completely agree with that. It's fun to do so. But like, on the wider scale in my community, I'm never going to go up to a conservative in my area and go, oh, you're just stupid. No, I'd find a way for them to be able to get involved, even if I disagree with them politically, purely because not only would in the end, it would be beneficial for the both of us. Mm-hmm. Also, they then can understand something that they might not have understood. And I've had this happen plenty of times with like conservatives in the UK. Is they'd go, oh yeah, you know what, like with my like the community fund we're trying to fund. We had a conservative come up to us and go, honestly, I would have never, ever done this. But because of the way, because we had to, go through the council, we had to go toolkit. It's not as simple as it sounds. we had a conservative come and go, you know what, I really want to be involved with this because even though like we politically don't align, they still want to help people out. And that's just something that it's innate in everyone. We just want to help.
Which is such a huge part about the conversation of mutual aid. It's like, it's not limited to political ideology and to political beliefs and to who you're going to vote for. I think most people, I hesitate to say most, but a lot of people want to feed the homeless. They want to participate in the betterment of people's lives. Like, regardless of what beliefs you have, usually people have that moral compass that allows them to become involved in sort of situations like that.
That's a bigger thing too. Like, Bader kind of talking about like religion and whatnot. Like, religion's a big thing. At least for me, what I've done is like I'm like a part of this local Hindu temple, and regularly we go on like food drives or whatnot, taking like canned food and shopping that over at a local food pantry, stuff like that. I feel like a lot of religious like groups do that too. You know, that should kind of go in the same thing as well. Like, you know, find communities where people are doing this type of thing.
All of the mutual aid I've done has been through my church. I don't personally identify as religious. My dad's a pastor. I don't really follow it. But I have to say, like, most of my mutual aid, the trips I've taken, the Praxis I've done has all been through religious organizations.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that like leftists in general, or just left-leaning people almost, especially those who get like kind of pigeonholed into certain views, is like the idea of coalition building, because it can be a tool for like numerous different reasons. Just like you guys were expanding upon, like people generally want the same things. They want society to be, you know, make people happy. They want, you know, they don't want people to die. They just want, you know, society to be better. Now, they might have really flawed ways of trying to get there. I totally agree. But the fact is they agree on the goals. So when it comes to doing things that they might find good, like, as you said, you know, feeding the homeless, trying to do things that generally people would consider like a ubiquitous good for society, I feel like it's really easy to just like talk to other people, see what they're doing, and then try to combine with them to further a goal, because it doesn't matter who's doing it, only that it's being done, right? But when it comes to the second reason why I think coalition building is really good is it goes upon our earlier conversation. When you're working with people who are conservatives or liberals, you can have conversations with them. It's not like you're just doing the thing. You can also talk with them about why. You can have maybe not like hardcore political conversations, but just be friends with them. And then as you're friends with them, or as you become acquaintances with these people, you can bring them over to the left. You can try to bring them over to your idea. You can show them things. You can show them pieces of information.
One of the best people I've seen, one of the best people I've seen kind of doing this is, well, first off, like Ben, for example, in our group, you know, he lives in New York. He talks to a ton of his friends, and he has like a Snapchat story with all his friends, and he just constantly posts like anti-capitalist content on there. And he's doing a really good job of converting people over. But one of the best people I've ever seen convert conservatives is probably Aggie. You know, the way she would do her Amigo streams, and then she would like talk to like young like kids who've been like pulled through the alt-right pipeline, the way she would talk to them and like get them to understand a new perspective and pull them out of there. It was some of the most amazing thing, some of the most compassionate shit I've ever seen.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well. I feel like, and this is like people like Aggie who definitely have like a way of speaking that I definitely don't have myself. Like, Aggie's able to articulate what she wants to say so well that if Aggie like was able to take this and go to schools and stuff like that and be able to talk to kids, it'd be amazing. It'd be like, she should be able to have so many kids. Like I said, Aggie specifically, the way she's able to convert people to leftism is insane. And the way she does it is also crazy. Like taking people like her, taking them to like, you know, local communities, parks, schools, fucking even businesses. By doing this, you just harbor such a nice community. You like make everyone, you know, wanna be around you. You make everyone want to get involved. And that's what's so nice about it.
Yeah. This kind of goes into like
100%. Yeah.
This kind of goes into the concept of what leftism is, right? Being compassionate and then like appealing the most to like the most oppressed group. And, you know, and I think, you know, and like, it's kind of weird what we're seeing now on like leftist TikTok, the whole reactionary shit, and like people just boiling it down to just like an economic and social ideology. It becomes a lot more than that. It's developing a community and an atmosphere of people who want to help each other out in the most best way possible.
Yeah.
Really. So
And that concept is way more realistic than getting people to read Marx, to read all these types of things. It's not reasonable. You can't expect people to do these things, but what you can expect is for people to have conversations with you and to be able to have relationships. Like, conversations are praxis. Like, they 100% are. Like, if you just have conversations with people, you are far more likely to get better things done than if you throw a book at them and say, here, read this.
No, literally, Jaggu is a perfect example of this.
100%.
Though. Like, for real, because I remember talking to him about this the other day. Like, Jaggu was telling me how he's like, you've barely read any theory, which is insane to me. But yet, Jaggu knows so much purely through debates and discussions he's had with people. That's insane. Like, I'm sorry, I myself, even through debates and discussions, would not be as educated as Jaggu is. I've had to read books to be able to get anywhere to like the place he is now, which is insane. Like, I completely agree with that. I think discussions are so important.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the biggest things with like this almost discussion of like, trying to get leftism through like fostering a community of compassion and trying to get leftism through theory reading, it's almost this like divortion, because you have on the one side people who are just in leftism for like the quote unquote political or social ideology and don't really care about fostering that compassionate community, and then you've got people that are entirely focused on like creating a compassionate community but aren't really focused on the theory. I'm honestly fine with the second person, but I'm not so fine with the first person. And the reason I'm not fine with the first person is because like I think we kind of see this on TikTok. It's mainly that like people who are just in it for the theory often do things that we would consider like entirely antithetical to leftist values, and they don't understand why we're criticizing them for it. It's because you're not just in leftism so that you can read, fancy books written by, 18th century German philosophers. The reason you're in leftism is because we want to create a society that is better for people on the ground and better for people just in general. It's not just about reading theory. It's about doing the practice. It's about fostering the communities.
I think that kind of goes to the perception of what leftists actually are. Because like I feel like when I first saw from like the outside perspective, it just seems like a bunch of like scrawny white history nerds just like fucking reading, like, who fucking read Capital and shit, and it's just like really fucking edgy. And I think for like on political discord for a while, it literally was that. Like, I think all of us at some point in political discord was like hella edgy, right? But then you realize like leftism is more than that, right? It's literally we have people's lives in our hands that we're discussing and debating about, and we treat them as just such as statistics rather than actual people and listening to stories and whatnot. I made this take before. Not a lot of people agree with me, but like, we should focus on more pathos appeals, because these stories are what drives people into leftism, what radicalizes people.
For sure.
Right? I completely agree. I think like we were talking about before, like this whole thing of like praxis is so much more than just, reading a book or, sending money. I think like if we take musicians, for example, like Tupac, Tupac did a lot of praxis in terms of like outside of his music, but the main praxis he did, and so many people agreed with him on it, is just purely through his music.
Right.
And that's something. It's like if you have something you love, for example, where music, sports, like was it Colin Kaepernick? Again, perfect example of someone who he knelt down. That's all he did, but it impacted so many people. And just that in itself is praxis, purely because he was able to get so many people aware of the situation. Like, even small things like that bring such a big change. And of course, like, none of us have like Colin Kaepernick fame. I understand that.
No, that's just you, bro. I'm trying to get into the NBA NFL draft.
Bro,
but like even stuff like that, like generally speaking, is like small things can make a big change. And as cringy as that sounds, and I hate using that quote, but it's true. It's like if you and again, sorry to be annoying about my cousin, but my cousin is also a very big proponent of this. If it wasn't for my cousin, I would be apolitical right now. 100%. My cousin, who's always been involved in her community, kind of like lit the spark. And now, like, the area she lives in or used to live in is so much more interconnected. Like, seeing so many people go up against, Boris in the Fuck Boris campaign that she did for her area. So many people got involved. Low-key even rapped there. Like, it was insane. Like, just small things like that is very, very important.
Which brings me to like what I wanted to ask as well during this is, how would you say is the best way for someone like as an individual within their community to start making those changes and to start involving themselves more in those senses?
I would say start with the thing you love, I guess. Specifically, like I said before, if you love music, get involved, because it's I guess at the beginning there's not as much praxis purely because you don't have the connections. But once you are connected to people, you can get so many things done. For me personally, I'll be honest, I've never really had connections as much as like I'd like, but because I've always known, this is like, politics is about helping individuals, whether you're right or left.
Right.
Both of us want to help people. And ever since I realized that's what I wanted to be involved in, that's what I wanted to do, I've always found different ways to do so. I think my TikTok, again, my TikTok is very useless in terms of politics. I just shit on Republicans mainly, right? But in doing so, I get a lot of people to laugh along. And by them having, them liking my content, I was able to take them over to my Discord, or, even have like conversations one-on-one with people, just talking to them about my own political beliefs. And I think that's also something like a lot of people could do, because even like TikTok, it's very easy to gain a platform. Like, you just need one video for it to go good, and then you're done. Like, doing things like that, harboring a community in which you want to educate and not be rude to people is what's very important. Like, even like myself, when I like call out people for like their misogyny, their racism, whatever, I see my own followers go into their comment section, instead of like, roasting them, they go and try and educate them, which is, again, like purely because, well, I would like to think that it's because of the community I create through my TikTok. And like, it's personally, like, in terms of like creating connections, is try and get involved. I'd say start with your school. I think that's the easiest way to do so, because there's always that one teacher in your school, whether it's US or UK, that's already involved.
Yeah.
And in doing so, and by finding that teacher, what you can do is you can ask them, like, how do I get involved? If they don't mind them getting involved with the charity they're involved with, you go through that way, voluntarily trying to helping out a charity shop, I would even say like small businesses, like, so important, like, to help them out. Like, my cousin and there's a small business in London, Cafe Fluence. If there's anyone British here, you might as well plug it. We don't get paid for doing so, but my cousins and I have control over their social media, purely because we're a bit younger, I guess, so we know how social media works. And also, like, just by doing so, we have created a connection between us and them. And now, like, literally anytime we go, if we ever need a drink or food, they help us out. Or if we ever need somewhere to teach people about stuff, we go there, because again, by creating those connections, you then also help people out. And that's, again, I always emphasize, even if you don't know a lot of people, knowing one or two can make a very big difference.
Yeah.
And that's something I emphasize.
That one person connection thing is really important too, because it's very difficult to find leftists in spaces that you're in, right? And so one of the biggest things that we see right now is like political TikTok is one way, because I've met so many other people around the DMV that's not leftist now. And that's crazy to me, because like once this whole pandemic is over, we can all meet up, we can do Praxis, we can do all that stuff as well. I'm also like, I've gotten a couple of college decisions right now. It seems like Purdue might be my only choice. And like, but like, I know, if y'all don't know, James gets political. He's like, he's like a Purdue, I guess, an alumni now, right? He was as the beanie on stuff. But I'm thinking, maybe I can ask him. Maybe there's leftist groups in like Purdue and stuff that I can help to mutual aid and Praxis. Stuff like that. Like finding these connections on TikTok. Getting to see if people live near you and whatnot, and helping to find just that one person that helps you find everyone else. That's extremely important.
That concept too, like, just like Beta was just saying, it's not limited to like online spaces. Like, for me, as someone who's really into film, and I was always really into film, and being in a community where a lot of the basis of film is kind of a lot of anti-capitalist thought. Not a lot of people know that that's the messages they're conveying, but it's huge in film. Yeah. And there's, in most art forms, in most art mediums, in most art communities, these are concepts that people are already using to portray in their art and to participate in within their own art forms. And it's not limited to that. It's sports as well. Just literally everyone is of the same, or most everyone is of those same moral aspects and moral beliefs, where they want to better their community. And by being a part of just any platform or group or community, be it leftist or not, you can make change, and you can participate in mutual aid and Praxis. And
No, it's like, I think for me recently, this was like the funniest thing I've realized. It's like, I hate American nationalists, right? I despise them. But if you're able to get American nationalists to convert to leftism, oh my God, they are the biggest, they will literally push their ideas so hard. Because like I said, there's nothing wrong with loving your country, in my opinion. Of course, there's like an extreme side to that,
right.
But there's nothing wrong with wanting your country to do well. And I think we can all agree with that. So if we can get like American, patriots, American nationalists who believe so much in America first, if we can get them to believe, not even in left anti-capitalist ideas, if we can kind of push them over to social democracy, or even if it's like Democrats.
Right.
If
just
we're able
shifting
to
that Overton window.
Yeah,
It's
really
100%.
important. It's so underrated.
Yeah.
It's insane, because again, like these people who want their country to do well will always do I'm sorry to say, I've seen so many Trump supporters do unironic Praxis, and it's insane. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's like, how could you have the political beliefs that you do and you want your community to do so well? It's because we all want people to be good, be happy.
100%. And along with that, I wanted to go into another question. What would you consider, and this is a question for everyone, would you consider there to be like a distinct difference between participating in something like just general charity, or the difference between charity and mutual aid? Would you consider them to be linked? How would you do that?
Yeah, I would say there's, I guess there's kind of an ulterior motive with mutual aid, in my opinion. I think mutual aid is pushing an agenda. For example, like nearly every single political thing I've been involved with has always had this agenda of pushing people to the left, even though it might not be like a strong communism. It'll be just like, you know what, guys, like this is what the Labour Party is about, this is what the Conservative Party is about. Now let's It's like with charity, I think regardless of your political beliefs, it's always just wanting to help people out. Whereas mutual aid, yes, it's helping people out, but it's also got like this hidden agenda of,
right.
I'm making it sound as if it's a bad thing that it's a hidden agenda, but as if like, by us helping you out, we also kind of, want you to understand where we come from. I guess like I take this from like, I think the Black Panther Party. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect example. Even though to the children at the time that they were helping out and feeding, even though the kids might not have realized like what was happening was they were being pushed to the left, right. It was happening nonetheless. So I think again, things like that is what I'd consider mutual aid. It's like this agenda of, okay, we're going to help you out, but we're also going to try and push you to, I guess, our side.
Because you want to help people out, but you also, we as leftists can all agree that the way to help everyone else and to help everyone out is to push these kind of ideas and these concepts, not onto people, but help them understand them. Because you can help one aspect of your community, but until that community understands the bigger picture, not everyone will be helped.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
100%. Mm-hmm. Like I think like the political party form, which I know like a lot of leftists kind of frown upon a bit, especially like those who are in the very authoritarian. Like it's been very useful in terms of mutual aid and Praxis, especially around the global south and whatnot. Something like forming an organization like centered around like even just like a general leftist ideology, say like the communist group or whatever in your like school or institution, whatever. That type of shit can be really useful in trying to like help radicalize and perform mutual aid and whatnot.
Yeah,
for sure.
But like another thing I with that question as well, like if you want to like considering charities mutual aid, you have to also understand what the charity is doing, because I feel like there's also a lot of charities that can make sure you're performative and like don't actually like contribute 100%. Like the money that you actually want to the groups. It's you have to look into like a lot of research and stuff like that. But generally ones that identify as more with leftism as a whole, but explicitly say it sometimes. Yeah, generally you can consider those to be fairly
You can, I guess, you can even like go Chandler's Rule, the Communard on TikTok. You can make your own organization. Like it's not. I think it might not necessarily be us, but I think kind of the world has made it seem as if, making organizations is so difficult. It really isn't as difficult as it sounds. You could literally just for example, what I would do is I would like email councilmen in my area. I want to do this. Do you think it's a good idea? Yes or no? Then I'll probably go on a Zoom call with them, talk to them, see what we can do. If we can do this on a bigger scale, on a smaller scale, whatever. Like we need to understand that it's not difficult. Yes, it might be hard to get involved in at first. But it's not difficult, and that's the fundamental difference. Once you're involved, and that's it. Like that's the main part. You just need to get into it. Once you're into it, everything becomes a lot easier.
100%.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with this. When it comes to like creating organizations, what I found is like really, really easy to do is just like find something in your community, whether it be your city, whether it be like the broader state that you're in, or even the country. That's pretty broad, but mainly just in your community, focus on that first, and then figure out something that's wrong. Just like what in your community is not working, right? And then literally just get people in your community or in the broader area where you live who are interested in solving that problem, and then just do solve that problem. And then maybe with that thing, you can get them to join the organization, and then maybe they can participate in other activities in the future, right? One of the biggest things right now when it comes to like the pandemic and stuff, obviously this is a huge roadblock in terms of actually trying to do advocacy outside. But one of the biggest things that I found is really helpful is honestly just like fundraising. Like it seems like really simple, but just fundraising for stuff, especially even like small charities within your community, can be really helpful. And like organizing events where you could do like a fundraising event where you might invite some like quote unquote famous people who are like progressive advocates to the event. And then like, you know, they might be able to garner some actual viewership for whatever you're doing, and then you'd be able to get more money. I think that's one of the things that they've been doing on TikTok recently is the charity streams. That's probably a really good idea for, right now in the pandemic. But yeah, 100%. Trying to facilitate that kind of on the ground activism is important in your communities, and doing it is not that hard.
I mean, you talked about like solving problems and stuff. I think people don't really see the power of political advocacy as much as like people give it credit for, right? Yeah. Because someone who's lived in the DC area, who's done congressional trips, who's done political advocacy firsthand, that shit works. You can get real change done, and that, like, leftists keep talking about electoralism is it's only like short lived. It's not going to do much change. We got to have like this whole violent revolution for this to happen. Like, sure, that's all down the line, but like you can do meaningful change. Not right now. You can do a meaningful change right now by sponsoring bills, talking to your local congressional people or local politicians. This is stuff that you can help fix right now. And it's really honestly all up to you whether or not you want to send that first email out to get that connection started.
And I think the thing too, like when people say stuff along the lines of, oh, well, this betterment is short-lived, and when you participate in things like this, it's short-lived. What's wrong about that? Would you rather it not be lived at all? It's sort of a situation like that where you want to, at least for the time being, create a betterment for the working class, for the people who are oppressed, for marginalized groups. Be it short-lived, at least it's lived. At least it sparks a conversation. It sparks a ability to continue and build off of that, rather than just throwing it out the window because, well, this praxis won't last long and end up being irrelevant.
It's so, like, I think, again, a big example of this is the whole, like, leftist with the Trump and Biden thing. Like, don't get it twisted. As the Middle Eastern, I hate Biden with a passion. Yeah. But in the amount of time he's been president, he's done so much. And even I was surprised. I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, it's crazy. Like, it's insane. Like, yeah, cool. Like, who's like everything Trump's done, Biden's trying to overturn and trying to go back and like try and solve, which is in and of itself, that's what we want. But even after that, we also want Biden to push, and like what I did with like the whole Yemen crisis stream is you want to push your politicians to, like Jaggu said, push bills, try and get them actually to take them seriously. Like, because I see this happen a lot in the UK as well, is we do like all these petitions, but the petitions don't end up going anywhere purely because they don't take us seriously.
It's the most performative shit sometimes, right? You see your friends dropping the change.org petition, like, what do those actually do?
No, it's like, I'm just like, yeah, cool, it's fine. But there's a difference between doing a change.org and then if they say, if like 1.5 million people that did the change.org petitions were to send emails to like the Prime Minister of the UK, holy shit, would they listen? But no, because again, it's this idea of, oh, me signing up is going to help out. It's like this whole, like Jaggu said, it's kind of performative. It's like this, oh yeah, it's making me feel good, so that means I must have done something.
No. One of the biggest things that I've seen too is like they'll make like email templates and then you put your information and they'll send it out. Like if it's the repetitive shit over and over, like they're not going to care. Sometimes personalized shit is what matters a lot. From my experience with that. I mean, there's like a whole stuff that you can get into that. I might like start making, because like even like my whole like congressional like advocacy and stuff like that, like even my knowledge is limited, but I feel like there's stuff that I've done, or even like even as like the whole leftist group as a whole, that we can like I know you have resources and stuff and like your link tree and whatnot, like Mutual and Praxis, but I think collating a lot of these resources more, especially within local communities, would be a lot better at the start as well.
No, 100%. Like that's one thing I guess you can also try and do, and this is something I don't know how to do yet, and I'm trying to kind of get to that point, is getting involved with my local library and trying to, like, I guess, quote unquote, sponsor I guess we call it primary school, that like goes up to the age of 12, to sponsor these schools, because I know a lot of schools, specifically in my area, are so underfunded. It's disgusting. Like we like if we were able to get schools and libraries interlinked, even if it's schools and gyms interlinked, just those small things will give kids a lot more to do, and then will give them a lot more ideas. And that's, again, something that's very important, because I honestly couldn't care less about converting a conservative my age into leftism, or I guess liberalism. What I care more about is getting the younger like generation, even though I'm not old whatsoever, getting them to, even if it's not getting involved in politics, stay apolitical, but get involved with charities, get involved with schools. Just that type of stuff is so important.
No, and it definitely gives like children just like that basis to move on. Like just as you did, Bader, talking about your cousin and how your cousin, in her participation in her community and what she did, just sparked your sort of political involvement, and how that just gave you a push towards being involved in political advocacy and mutual aid in general. Like that is so true with younger kids and with people that just want to be involved to help, and being involved to help can be a segue to bigger things and ideological things,
And I think it's also like this, I guess we can all agree that I hate this notion that, oh, you got like kids are young, they shouldn't be involved in politics. Excuse my swearing, but fuck no, I completely disagree with that. I like being involved at such a young age is what makes it so much more. Like, I'm sorry to say, if like when I hear stories of Jeremy, even though Jeremy Corbyn technically wasn't like very young, but when I hear stories of Jeremy Corbyn when he was, 30, 35, 40, getting involved in politics, getting arrested, stuff like that, even though, you shouldn't be getting arrested, but like because of political means, is so motivating for me. So if there's any way I can get like children involved, because also I think an important thing is, if your name is well known in your area, or even like in your state, country, whatever, for like being involved in politics, let's say you want to be a politician way down the line, that's so good for you. Purely because, at a young age, I've done mutual aid, I've done this, and this. Now that I want to get involved in politics, people now know what I'm about, know what I want, and know how I'm going to do it. And that also, again, harbors this environment in your community that's, okay, you know what, I can actually trust this individual to help me and my community out, which, again, is very important.
Which I think we can relate that to like for American politics, how we see Bernie Sanders, and how there's a lot of people, like liberals included, that just have this trust in Bernie and his beliefs and his plans, because he was involved so young, and there's photos of him at these protests when he was 16, 17 years old, and just having that basis makes you that much more like trustworthy and valid to the movement,
Exactly.
Not to say it's invalid if you join later, but
it's like a historical thing too, right? We always see these central key figures who are like these big revolutionaries who start by in their community and gaining the people's trust, right? Like Emiliano Zapata, like he became a revolutionary in the future because he took his land, the Chiapas or whatever, like, and he made people trust in and believe in him. Now he kind of became sort of this deity figure, and we can debate whether or not it's a good thing or not. But like that trust in there is what allowed him to thrive in the future and create this kind of like revolution or whatever. And you know, every single one of us, you know, if we want to be these big politicians someday, you have to start our local communities. That's one of the biggest things that we don't focus on.
100%.
Yeah, no, I guess like this kind of reminds me of the whole stigma that like, you know, the TikTok page Gen Z for Biden got. Like they got so much hate for being like this political page on TikTok about Biden from the leftist community. And I was just like, I get where the leftist community is coming from. I understand. But again, we have to remember that not everyone is a leftist. Like our job as leftists is to convert people to, I guess not convert, that's the wrong use of words, like try and help them to understand leftism and try and get them to, you know, be involved in leftism. But again, like I don't really want to get because it's about mutual aid, but like it's become this like community where it's now, oh yeah, I know more than you, so you have to listen to me because I'm correct.
Right.
Which honestly, whether you're correct or not, I could care less about. If you cannot like involve me in your stuff, I'm like, there's no point of me even listening to you.
To make that about mutual aid, that is the antithesis of mutual aid, to put people down like that and to participate in conversations where you're just trying to make yourself holier than thou and smarter than the other and all of these types of situations. No one in your community is going to want to talk to you. That's just the truth of the matter. No one is going to want to talk to someone who puts themselves above the people they're trying to help. You want to be on the ground. You want to be participating with people, fostering relationships. And you can't do that when you have this superiority complex.
Yeah.
You know?
I completely agree with that. Like, I guess one thing that I would, I guess, like going back to the whole thing of, oh, how can, you know, people get involved? If you have friends, just even by having friends, right? If you're a Democrat, for example, in America, and you have friends that are also Democrats, if you want to talk to like, I guess because I don't know how the system in America works, but like if you want to talk to your congressman or woman or congressperson, you just need, if you know, write an email or make a document where you have people write their names over and over and over again, like just a bunch of random people. And I write my name first. I send it to Jaggu. Jaggu then puts it on his story. That reaches people. They put it on their story. And just having a bunch of people write their names on a list and then taking that and going, okay, now look, I've got this many people that agree with me. We need some change.
Right.
Even by doing that, because again, like the change.org stuff does not help because it's just a website. But if you can get, again, in your community, because it works more on a smaller scale, I guess. Like you have to start small and then get big. If we can get, you know, I guess DC, if we can get DC to change one thing, then just by having DC change, we might be able to get the whole DMV to agree, and then the entirety of the DMV then gets other states to also, you know, agree with them. And just by doing like that small thing can lead to such a big change. And I feel like
when in New England, I've seen that firsthand. It's once I live in Mass, once Boston and Mass does something, it goes all the way down the coast. It happens almost within 5-6 months. Everyone is now, at least on a governmental level, usually they follow suit. And that's
like, that's a bigger thing too. Like doing like federal change, for instance, can propagate to the rest of the community, like country, right? And it's this other way around too. Doing like a political advocacy within your local government, honestly, might mean so much more, solely because that's where a lot of like big changes happen, right? You see this with like Stockton, for example, where like the mayor implemented like a UBI system, right? Political advocacy like that started at the local level, and they're like means tested there, and then it spread out to the rest of the country.
Right.
And so like you have to start talking to people, like go on like your county's website, find out who's your local politicians, and just start from there. Because every single meaningful thing you just communicate, you can foster relationships and start doing like actual meaningful political advocacy, however old you are and whenever.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's a good note to finish this up on. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
With that being said, you know, I think we had a very great discussion. Hopefully y'all learned something and especially anything new. But Bader, thank you so much for being on, dog.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun. I hope I get to join these more often.
Yeah,
100%.
great. Hopefully we'll be able to maybe invite some more people. We'll have a lot more company and have some maybe more interesting topics. Or this is an interesting topic. You know what I mean by interesting though, like, it's fiery. But because you all pretty much just agreed. We're just talking about the nuances. But thank you for coming on, Bader. It's nice for you. Nice to be on.
If you want to be on more, bro, you should join the Post About House.
Yeah.
Honestly, if like these type of things, like, again, this in and of itself is like mutual aid. You can consider it in a way. So yeah, I would love to join. It'd be really a lot of fun.
All right. Let me say thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
We did get a couple of comments. That was pretty cool. We can go check that out later. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.